Hey, what's going on, guys? Before I start this short little video, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has subscribed to my channel and has continued to watch, has commented, thumbs up the videos, all that stuff. Just the other day, 2 days ago, we hit 1,000 subscribers on our channel. So that's awesome. Like I said, I never thought that that was going to happen. I never thought that that was going to be a thing. Nonetheless, in a year's time, I did a little bit of research just to kind of see what 1,000 subscribers means, and there's something like 4 or 6 million YouTube channels currently right now that have 1,000 subscribers or more, which is a lot. But in the grand scheme of all of the YouTube channels, it's only about 8%. So I think that's pretty cool. You know, again, I just kind of started this whole thing to show you guys that some of the regenerative and managed intensive practices for raising livestock that we see and read and hear about on these large ranches and farms can be shrunk down and done on a very micro scale. So again, huge thank you to everyone who's subscribed and has been following me since day one. I'm very appreciative, and I hope to continue to put out some quality content that we can all learn from and all interact in the coming future. So awesome. You can see behind me, I've got the TYM, it's a T554. I'll talk about the tractor really quick, and then I'll kind of tell you what we're doing with it. We're going on our 6th year with this tractor, and we love it out here. I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of a gamble when we first pulled the trigger on it, because 6 years ago, there wasn't a whole lot of information on this TYM brand. And if you're not familiar with TYM, they are a South Korean brand, South Korean tractor brand, and they actually build tractors, the subcompact and compact, like the one we have, for a lot of different brands. So RK tractors are TYM, just rebranded. Mahindra tractors, Branson's new line of subcompact and compact tractors, they're TYM, just rebranded. LS, I think LS, they're now doing their tractors for LS, the other blue company. Someone even said back in the day they did Bobcats. I actually think they did Bobcats for a while. They might still do Bobcat. There was hardly anything on YouTube. There was hardly the forums, the message boards really didn't have a whole lot of information on these tractors. And of course, when we decided that we needed something like this, we were looking at the John Deeres, the New Hollands, the Case, the Kubota, obviously. The big thing with those brands, we all know, is the price. What we were looking at on John Deere and Kubota, which are the two closest dealers to us other than TYM, they were way far out of the price range. So that kind of made up our mind right away that let's go ahead and take a chance on this brand. Now, since we bought this tractor, the TYM and the RK tractor brand has become a lot more popular, right? There's a few other YouTube channels that are pretty big that have ran this brand. Outdoors with the Morgans, great channel. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. If not, check it out. He had a little deal with RK tractors for a while, and he was running a couple different RK tractors. Stony Ridge Farmer, he is currently running TYMs. He's got a couple different TYMs right now. So the brand has definitely picked up. It's gotten more popular. Unfortunately, it's gotten a little bit more expensive too, with that notoriety now that they're getting. Long story short, we're super happy with this tractor. If anyone's thinking about TYM brand and you have a good dealer support, that's probably the most important thing. Doesn't matter what brand you want, doesn't matter what brand you buy. If your dealer network, if your dealer support is junk, you're just kind of setting yourself up for failure. So luckily we have a really good dealer right down the road. So, okay, what we're doing today, let me move the camera and I'll show you. So we're down here in the back pasture. This is the winter shelter. So for that small herd of Dexter cattle that I run, this is where they can come to. They have free choice of this. This is where they can come to over the winter. All winter they have access to this. Really once we get into about December. Once we're done strip grazing, then I kind of open it all up and they can get into this shelter. So in the past, what I used to do was I'd actually muck this out, once a day or once every couple of days. I'd come down and I would remove manure out of here, and I would find a little pile outside and I would start kind of setting the manure out there. I stopped doing that for a few reasons, because then I'd have a pile of just manure that had really volatilized, right? So by the time I got around to being able to scoop that manure up, you know, the snow melted off of it, the ice melted off of it, the ground was dry enough. That stuff had just been exposed to the elements so much that it had lost a lot of, you know, nutrient value that could go back into the soil, or that could go back into compost, which is what we're doing with this stuff. So I stopped doing that. Then for a few years after that, I would add at least a new small square bale once a week just to keep them on fresh stuff. Well, what I started finding was, as I would pull this stuff out of here, for starters, it would take forever to pull this stuff out of here because the bedding would be so deep. But it wouldn't break down. I had far more carbon than I did nitrogen. And for those of you not quite familiar with the carbon nitrogen balance for compost, which again is what we're doing with this stuff, you know, you really need in equal balance. And in my experience, I found that you need maybe a little bit more nitrogen than you do carbon for you to get that really rich black compost. And so for us, the carbon was the straw and the nitrogen was the manure and the urine. So what I was finding by adding a bale on a regular basis, you know, again, once a week or more, that when I would pile that stuff up and try and make compost with it, it wouldn't break down. I had far more carbon in my compost pile than I did nitrogen, because I had a lot more straw. So I would have to be adding grass clippings, was kind of my go-to to add some nitrogen to it. But that just became super tedious, and it still wasn't breaking down quite like it should have. This past year was the first year that I decided that I was going to not add straw until they really needed it. So again, I wanted to keep the girls clean. I wanted to keep the girls dry. I wanted to keep them healthy. Oh, I can already tell, digging into this, we have a far better amount of nitrogen in here, and I'm really excited to get this stuff out into the sunlight, to get some moisture on it, and then just kind of start that stirring process over the next couple months to see how this breaks down. All right, we got to get to work. I'll get some footage, and like always, any questions, comments, sarcastic remarks, go and leave them in the comments below, and we'll talk to you guys later. The other thing I should comment on too is just how good it smells in here. And to me, that's a really good indication that I have a pretty good balance of carbon and nitrogen going right now. It smells very, very earthy, very natural. It smells good. I enjoy it. All right, so a few days later, here's the pile. It's actually had 3 inches of rain on it. I got that project done that day, right before all this rain came in. So it's settled a little bit. Obviously, it's not as much as I've had in the years past, again, just because I didn't add as much straw throughout the winter. So yeah, this is the first step. We'll let this sit out here in the sun, and you know, we'll water it as needed and turn it as needed with the tractor. But it's looking good. You know, a lot of it's already broken down too, so I think it's gonna go pretty quickly. Honestly, I'm hoping by fall. Spread it on the pasture, and so that can be kind of worked into the soil over the late fall and throughout the winter. And obviously, I'm not an expert on composting. There's far better videos out there on YouTube that talks about the best ways to make compost pile. But I have found that this book has been a huge help. The Complete Book of Composting by Rurudo? Just kidding. That's a movie reference. 10 points to whoever comments the correct movie below. J.I. Rodell, written in 1969. So I obviously got this book used. Amazon or eBay, I can't remember which. It's falling apart, but super good. It covers a lot of different ways to compost and different things you can use, different tactics, techniques. But one thing I really like about it, because it is older and animal agriculture was more widely used back in the day, it's got really good sections on manure, using animal manure to make compost. So check it out if you can get your hands on it. I highly recommend it. Good stuff.